So how do you take a crisis or the inevitable struggles and pains of life and turn them into something manageable, or even into a positive stepping stone on your journey towards whatever goal you have in life? You know what easy set of questions that is. But on a more serious note, if you're watching this right now as we're going through the COVID-19 crisis that has put just so many people into existential angst, or you're watching this at a later point where you're just looking for further illustrations and support to get through a personal crisis of yours, I want to make sure that this video is here to serve you. Because here's what we know. How we choose to handle and engage with the inevitable struggles of life reveals a lot about our overall sense and quality of mastery in life. Because we'll never be able to push all these struggles and pains out of our lives completely. But we can train ourselves to face those struggles, to deal with those struggles with more excellence, with more grace, and with more perseverance. And so I want to share with you 2 levers that we can pull in order to turn this crisis into a great opportunity for you. But before we get into those, I just want to share a quick story and illustration about my latest crisis, so that you know you're definitely not alone in this, and just so you have a little bit more context. So a couple of weeks ago, I had this incredible enrollment call with a wonderful lady, and we were just crushing it. And we had a great connection there, and we were talking about the struggles that she finally needed and wanted to face in her life right now. We started to create some wonderful ambitions for her that she was excited to go after. But then we got into more of the formal parts of the discussion, and sadly things didn't work out. And so just this one failure, quote unquote, started a domino effect where I started to realize that a lot of the things that I had been doing for years now haven't really created the outputs that I wanted, that I'd hoped for. And so just this realization can be really devastating. And I remember just sitting over there in the corner of my office, and it was like somebody just put black sunglasses on my nose. It was just all black and white. You get all these thoughts where you start to question every single decision you've ever made in life. And yeah, that's just hard, and we all have those moments. But then I started to remember some of the systems and some of the questions that the highest performers, my mentors, use in order to turn these crises around. And suddenly I was able to glean and pick some of those nuggets out of the mess, some of those lessons that were necessary. And now without the crisis, wouldn't have had the opportunity to just find these necessary improvements that I needed to make. And looking back at every crisis I've ever had, there was always the opportunity for learning afterwards. And there were some critical lessons that I wouldn't have learned without the crisis. And so now it's even like I have a little bit of a masochistic streak, because whenever I sense this negative feeling of crisis, there's also this weird part in my brain that goes, oh yeah, like there's a great opportunity for growth here. Like just wait for the first negativity to go out, and then we can just take this apart and learn. And maybe you're just thinking like, oh gosh, like what the hell am I watching this video for? Like, what is this crazy guy talking about? But believe me, if you try this and you practice it, and you practice what we're going to be talking about in a minute, you're going to be a master at turning those crises into opportunities. And so, as promised, 2 levers that we're going to talk about. And the first is about mindset, and the second is about actions. Because, you know, there's always this interplay between those 2 parts. And so it all starts with mindset and the way we think. And one of the biggest shifts that I've made in the last 12 months goes back to a core phrase of our master coach, my hero, Brendon Burchard, who teaches to honor the struggle. And so this is about taking the crisis and about stopping the labeling, the judging, the complaining about that crisis. The first step is to turn it in your mind into something that can be an opportunity, into something that you can deal with, into something that is a necessary part of life right now. And so I know that this may sound like rah personal development, but I'm also an engineer. And so when I have a tight budget and I would just have to throw some of that budget away on nothing, like, I'd hate that, wouldn't you? But this is exactly what we do. Like, if the budget is our time that is more limited than anything, and we just continue to complain, to look for the bad stuff, to beat ourselves up, we're just taking some of those resources and we're just throwing them out. And so every single minute that we spend on dwelling on that crisis, on just wishing for things to be different, on shaking the fist to the heavens, we're just wasting precious time we could use on turning this crisis around, on seeking the lessons, and on improving ourselves. So that's the first mindset shift that we need. And then we can start evaluating our actions. And so there are a couple of questions that I want to give you so that you can do it. And the first question is, it may sound funny, but stick with me here. It's, what remarkably stupid thing am I doing on a recurring basis that makes my life worse? What stupid things am I doing on a regular basis that are making my life worse? And whenever I ask that question, I'm so amazed, because for me, but also for other people, there's always an answer coming up within seconds. Because we always know that there are some things where we just go, oh gosh, like, I wish I wouldn't do that, should definitely change that. Now it's just time to face it. So that's the first piece. Secondly, we need to ask, well, who could actually help us here? Because we can't figure everything out on our own, and we also don't have to. And so, do you have some mentors, coaches, dear friends, co-workers, bosses who you could talk to right now? And if not, I want to invite you and challenge you even to send me a message, to just let me know what you need help with, and then we can talk about it. Because, this is my purpose and my honor, to help people to get from where they are to where they want to be. And so if you need help, just let me know. I'm happy to serve. But in general, just remember, have the conversation and look for people who can help you. Number 3, the next question that I would ask, comes from Tim Ferriss, who loves to ask, what if I could only subtract right now to solve problems? Because so often we just want to throw more at the problem, more money. We want to put more on our to-do list. We want to read more books. We want to exercise more. But again, in the end, we only have that limited time budget. We only have 24 hours. And so it's way better, way more efficient, and it brings you way more joy to throw out the stuff that doesn't matter, clean up hours of your days and weeks, and make sure you're actually focusing on the things that actually move you through this crisis, that actually will help you get through this problem and solve it, instead of doing all the things that don't actually give you what you want and trying to put more on it so that you do less at the end. And lastly, now this is where we can talk about addition. Now we can ask ourselves, okay, what do I definitely need to start doing right now in order to get through this crisis? And those things don't have to be big. The most important thing is that you start. And so you can make small things, small changes, but make sure you're focusing on the things that will actually move the needle for you. And so my final challenge for you here would be this. I would love to invite you to use this power of reflection every single day, because then you actually have way more opportunities to right the ship. The problems aren't that big anymore. The changes also aren't that big. And so you're continuously improving every single day and not getting into that big crisis. Because, for example, what is a midlife crisis? It's that people just rush through life for decades, then they hit a wall, and suddenly they start reflecting on their choices, and suddenly they realize that they've made grave mistakes in their lives. Would that have happened if they had just reflected every single day just for a couple of seconds or minutes? Probably not. So this is my challenge to you. This is one of the core ingredients of my Perfect Day Blueprint Challenge if you'd like to join that. Otherwise, I wish you all the best going through the crisis of yours. I hope you now have tools and frameworks in order to think through it. Know that I'm here to help you. And please know this. Make sure you aim at the greatest, most joyous ambition in life that you can see for yourself. And then focus on the day and do work that matters.